6 to 8 years old. We are doing clay today. So you need your clay to come ready. We also need to cover your surface with some or something that you can get dirty. And you have 2 straws, look like this, big fat ones, some toothpicks, and I just grabbed a fork. I have a plastic fork here, but your toothpicks will do just fine. And then one thing that we found while we were doing the demo for this is try and find a marker, something that has like a long surface. That's what we're going to use to roll things out. So let's get started.
Hi.
Oh. This is Eloise. You just keep popping up out of nowhere. This is Eloise. She's going to help me today. She and I did the demo for our other thing. Hi, Elin.
We'll show you it.
Yeah, we're going to show you. It's going to be great. So we did our other demo, and we're going to make that work. So I just have to figure out how I'm using a new camera. I'm using a new camera today, and it just disappeared from my options of how to click back to my other camera. Just give me a minute. While you guys are waiting, you can get all your stuff out. So we're looking for clay. What else do we need?
We need we need 2 straws.
2 straws.
2 straws. Could find a fork. And you could find like a yellow or any kind of marker.
Any kind of marker is
fine. Yeah, any kind of marker. And that would be great. And a nail. I found a nail.
Oh, wow. Or a toothpick, right?
Yeah, or a
toothpick.
There we go. Not a nail.
Okay, well, we might just... I was trying something new with technology. Apparently, it's not going to work. So
let's get started.
Let's get started. We're going to show you our lantern that we made.
Wait, so we can't do this?
Apparently not. So we're gonna figure this out. So this is our lantern. It has a lid, and as you can see, there's lots of tiny little holes all the way around it. Okay, it's been painted, and
I painted it.
Inside it has a little light. So you have your light as well. This is a project that's going to take. Today we're going to do the demo on how to build this with all your clay, and then you literally just need to let it dry. And after it's dry, you can
use... It'll take an hour of a day and a night.
A whole day plus an hour plus a night.
Yeah.
It's a long time. And then you can actually just paint it with your acrylic paint. Okay? So we're going to get our clay out, and I want you to start by breaking off a piece about 2 inches long from your block of clay. Okay?
2 inches? I thought it was like 3 inches.
Well, let's just see what happens. So I'm just gonna do this. See if we can.
What?
Look at that. It's gonna be great. We're on our laptop today, so you let me know. I can't really see your comments anymore, but that's it. Okay.
I can see it.
So when you
we
see
take that much up?
Yeah. Can you show how big that's gonna be?
Okay, so I just
about there. Okay, so we're going to reserve that part for the lid a little bit later.
The lid?
Yeah.
And this is going to be...
Okay, so now you're going to take off another piece, a little bit smaller than that, and that's going to be the base. So again, I'll just show you here. A little bit smaller, like an inch thick. So you can see we've got this nice circle base on the bottom.
Like that?
And...
Like that?
Sure. And then this piece is all one piece going around. Okay, so if you've ever done clay before, then...
I got the lid right here.
Perfect. So let's put that aside.
Wait, why is this one smaller?
It's going to be the bottom.
The lid is smaller.
Well,
the bottom!
Yeah. So
okay.
One thing about clay that you need to know is that it has to be stuck together, almost like glue. So there's a special process that we do called score, right? Slip and score. So, sorry, you need a little bit of water if you haven't already gotten your water.
Oh yeah, we need some water. Where's the paintbrushes so we can paint?
I'm going to grab them, but can you talk about rolling this out? How are you rolling this out?
I'm using my hand.
Ah, look at this is something okay. Just need to make sure it's on the cardboard before we do that.
There we go. Okay, so you're gonna use your marker if you have one. What you're gonna do, you're gonna use your marker and you're kind of gonna roll it out like this.
And you were right, you can squish it flat pretty far.
Yeah.
Because it is difficult to do it like that. So squish it flat first a little bit, and then you're just going to have a thickness, same thickness all the way across, right?
Yeah. You're gonna probably want it to be a circle. If you want your bottom to be a square, you just make it into a square. I guess you just like line it up to be a square. I'm kind of making mine a little bit messy, but that's okay. Because we're gonna fix it. And this is probably gonna be the upper part. Or the lower part, I don't know yet. And you're just gonna make it into a circle or a square or like any kind of shape you want it to be. And I'm just gonna cut it.
Are we doing a circle?
Yeah. I'm gonna do a square though.
Well, we're going to show how to do this demo. Can I roll it a little bit more? Let's just make sure it's nice and flat.
Fine, I'm just going around it to make sure.
So Eloine's using a toothpick for cutting, which is really a great tool because it's nice and sharp. And we have a little bit of water here. Not too small, remember.
Okay? Let me just.
Awesome. So she's got a nice circle. And remember, this is the bottom, so it doesn't have to be perfectly flat.
Doesn't matter.
But we just want to make sure that it's the same thickness all the way through, all around the whole thing. So if it's not, if it got super thin on one side, that's okay. Maybe just squish it up and start again. So we're going to put that aside.
Wait.
Oh, no water yet. We don't need any water yet. So this chunk, we want to keep this basically the same. That's a little bit too much water. Just leave it. So this chunk, we want to kind of keep the shape the same, but we're going to try and roll it out as far as we can without breaking it up. It is going to be hard, but we're going to try. And so what I was doing before is sort of stretching it a tiny bit as you push.
I think I got it.
Okay.
This?
Keep going. Well, we don't necessarily want to smooth it over because that creates air bubbles.
Air bubbles.
Okay. But we do want to make it super long, and we're going to be stretching. Okay, 1 second. Yep, we're just going to go this way. Here we go. So we're going, can you do this way?
Mm-hmm.
So we're just going back and forth the width. Okay, we don't want to necessarily make it any bigger this way, this width, but we want to make it long, super long.
No, it can see me.
Mm-hmm. It is. This part is very tricky. This is what we found was hardest with the rolling. If you have a rolling pin or you have something a little bit thicker,
We have a rolling pin.
that would probably help. Well, we have a rolling pin for cooking. We don't have any of our clay rolling pins at home here.
We don't.
Which is important. You don't want to use anything that you would cook with on the clay. That's why I have a plastic fork, because clay has silica in it. It's basically mud that you're using. So you don't want to put that in your mouth after. So this is not going to be something that you're going to drink out of, that's for sure.
Unless you put it in a kiln, which would.
That's right. It has to go into a kiln in order to be food safe. So this is air dry clay.
I've made a kiln thing.
Yeah. Kiln.
Kiln.
It's a hard word to say, isn't it?
Kiln.
Okay, so we're trying to roll this out as far as we can go. Make it nice and.
I'm just playing with this thing until my mom's done. I made the circle, so I can wait. Should we paint this one with water?
Okay, so just to measure, you can take your circle, put it on one side, and kind of roll, let's see if I can turn it, roll it around to see if it touches
It touches.
the other side. So it's just a tiny bit too short, so we're going to just roll that out a little bit more. No water yet. Keep your water. We do not want any more water.
On that.
No, the thing about adding water to clay is that it eventually makes it so mucky and muddy that it will take forever to dry. Okay, so we want to make sure that we don't add water unless we absolutely have to.
Yeah, but we sleep for so long it'll be dry when we wake up.
You don't sleep very long.
I know, because I wake up at like a 7 or something. 6.
Yeah, sometimes 6.
6 or 5 or 4 or like 3 or 2 or 1. I don't really like to be like I like to be awake before everybody else because then I can do like because of these videos I can just do like YouTube.
That's right.
And when my mom's not awake.
Okay, so we've got our nice flat piece now, and what I was using to cut was a nice straight straw. So can you put the other straw on the other side?
Can I cut it?
Yep, so we're going to use the straw as a guide, and I just hold it down, and then you push super hard so it goes all the way through, but in a straight line all the way down. Okay, and then you just get rid of that part. Perfect, so we're going to do that to the other side.
I'm kind of just starting and pushing like that.
Oh, yeah, you don't have to, it's not too hard at all. So then we're going to shape up the edges a little bit from the inside, sorry. So that we're making a giant rectangle, basically.
Yeah.
A nice and fairly straight rectangle. No, other side. Other side. Okay.
What?
It's fine. Okay.
You told me to do it from
I know, the other side it was a little even. Okay, so let's just double check our measurements again.
Just to make sure it goes all the way around the circle to make our lantern, which is...
That's right.
We're not making this right
so
here.
It's okay if it overlaps. We want to have a little bit of an overlap because then we will have room
in the sky,
play around.
And we will have a little bit off so we can go overlap.
That's right. Okay, so when we talked about constellations, I had an idea about making constellations into your pattern. And we decided when we were doing our lantern, we liked it better just with lots of different dots. So if you want to do constellations, you can, those are things like the formation of the stars. You can look them up online if you want. And we just liked to sort of make dots everywhere. So you take your straw and you push it straight down and give it a little twist. Okay?
I like to twist it a lot to make sure.
So on the bottom, closest to us, we're going to leave sort of, we're not going to do any holes sort of in the last centimeter. Okay? Because that's where we're going to join everything.
Well, I should do several.
You want to trade? Here. And you can, the more holes that you add, the more light that we'll get through, right?
Mm-hmm.
We also discovered something cool, that the clay sticks inside the tube. So if you pinch it and then push really hard all the way to the top, you get this cool tube.
I want to try the fork.
Okay.
I'm going to do some fork
decorations.
Can you wiggle that a little bit too?
Yep.
To make a cool line-ish thing. That's cool.
Yep, you can do toothpick holes if you want.
You do something like this. When you're painting it, you could like use the fork to paint it.
Yeah, I saw that you did yellow, right?
Yeah, with the fork. I just painted it with the fork.
That's pretty
I
cool.
used the fork. I used the force of the fork.
Yeah, that's great. And we can do a little bit more after we, that's okay, after we join things together. But we want to make sure it's nice and strong first. So if you do start to see any cracks in your clay, we want to smooth those out as much as we can. So I just dip my finger in the water and we just give it we're just smoothing it down. Just a tiny bit. So literally just whatever's on your finger you can use to smooth out. Okay, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but we also want to, oh, don't smooth out our holes. We want to make sure that we're not making it too wet to work with.
Yeah, because you still want to be able to wrap it around the circle right here.
That's right. So the ideal situation, and we do this a lot in the studio, is that see how bendy this is?
Yes, it's really bendy, so
It's
it could break.
very wet.
It could break.
It could break.
And when you put it on, it might like just
flop over.
It might fail, and it might just like.
That's right. It's going to flop over.
Sorry about that.
The ideal
noise.
situation is that you can actually get a hairdryer and dry just a tiny bit so that it's going to be a little stiffer for when we join it on, but we're going to go ahead and do ours now. So this is our nice side. So I'm going to flip this over. You'll see it's not as nice at the back.
Yeah.
If the holes haven't gone all the way through with your fork, maybe re-poke those.
On the back.
On the back, just to make sure that they do go through. And now we're going to start to do our score and slip. So what that means is that any surface that's going together, and I'll show you with this little example. If I wanted to join this little tiny ball onto this flat piece, if I stuck it on and let it dry, what happens is that the water that's inside the clay just dries up, and then there's nothing adhering these two things together. There's nothing sticking it together. So what happens most times is that
you're going to want to use your toothpick.
That's right, but your little piece will actually fall right off. And that's the most frustrating part about working with clay. Just one second. That you actually, things will start to fall off after you've done all your hard work. So what we're going to do to any two bits that are sticking together, we're going to score it, which means just scratching up the surface. You see that? So we're scratching it with a toothpick. And then I'm going to scratch the little ball with a toothpick. Okay, and then slip. Eloine's applying a little bit of water. And we want to basically apply that to both surfaces. So it's almost like creating a glue. It's really messy and wet. And then I'm going to just twist it a little bit back and forth. So this is now stuck onto here because I've created
mud.
Then that's called slip. Okay?
Yeah, that's the slip.
Slip is just watered down clay.
Yeah, it's like scoring slip, like some milk, and then scores.
Okay, so what we're going to do is that we're going to join, as you can see in our example here, we're joining our rectangle part to the base. And the rectangle is actually wrapped around the outside of the base. So we have to score both areas. I think this was our bottom here. So Eloine's going to score right on the flat part. No. Yep. You're just going to give some scratches. You can do that with your fork. You can do it with your... So see, we're really digging in there a little bit. Like we're not going to push, but we're making it nice and roughed up. And remember, this is the inside, so it can be ugly. And then we need to score... Wait.
You need to slip.
You need to score this edge too. So on this one, we're going to score the really thin edge all the way around. Okay, so Eloine's going to, in a second, after I score this, she's going to paint. And you can
use my paintbrush, my trusty orangish blue paintbrush.
Yeah, you can use a paintbrush, or you can even use your hand, your
finger. Yeah, your hand is good too. Or straw. Stuck in the straw, like.
I guess you could do that, yeah.
Yeah, but it would be hard.
The challenge with that is that maybe too much water would go on there.
Okay, I'm gonna slip it.
Okay.
I'm just gonna.
And I'm going to continue going all the way around.
I'm going really quick so I don't get too much water.
That's right. So we just want to create a little glue, like a little wet surface area right there.
And I'm going to do the exact same on the circle.
Okay, go ahead. So when we're joining it together, you might need two hands to help. It really helps if there's somebody supporting you to roll it together. If you don't have another person, then you can definitely do it by yourself, but you just have to go super slow. So one thing I'm going to show you is that we are going to kind of glue these together. We are pushing them together, but, and I'll just see if I can turn it sideways for you. Okay, so when we're putting it, we want to make sure that on the outside edge that it's not over the top. We have a little bit of a ridge, and we're kind of wiggling it back and forth as we go.
I'm just waiting over here playing with this.
Okay. I also like to smush, so put your finger behind so that it's supporting it. It's not going to bend it. And I like to smush some of that clay and smooth it as I go. You can use extra clay too. If you have a little bit of wet clay, you could get that, make a little worm and put it on the inside and just smooth it. Let's see if I can show you that. So I have a little worm and I'm smoothing this. Okay. The biggest thing is that this is our joint. This is where we're going to attach the whole thing. So I want to be very carefully smoothing as I go. Sorry, I'm trying to find the best angle that you guys can still see me. Okay, so I'm still just smoothing as I go and rolling it. Now, don't worry too much if it starts to bend on the other side, because our clay is so wet, we're going to bend it back. Okay, so I'm just pressing with the back of my fork or my finger. I'm finding my nail is kind of digging into the clay, so that's why I'm using a fork. And I just keep going. So if it's dry, you want to add some more water. Mine's super wet because Ellen did a good job. No, it's good. And we're going to go all the way around. I'm just making it nice and smooth. The more clay that's overlapping that joint, the more secure your joint's going to be. Okay, so you want to make it squished and kind of, you're pulling up the clay from the inside. Let's see if I can turn it. This is the delicate stage. So it's pretty forgivable. Clay has a memory, which means that anytime you're working with clay, it will remember where you want it to go. So if you reuse your clay and it's been worked a lot, sometimes it's difficult because it remembers all that process that you've been doing. And now I'm just squishing on the inside as well, just rubbing it out. So the last part is the overlapping bit. So again, we need to put scoring on both sides and then slip to join them together. You can use, I think Elowen's got my toothpick, so I'm just using a fork. That's fine. There we go. So this is like if you were sanding before you paint. You want to rough up the surface a little bit to really make sure you get a surface that can adhere and can stick together. Okay, so I'm not looking, but you're on the camera. I don't know if you know that. So this one, we're not going to squish. We're literally just pushing, so it's like a nice edge, and I'm moving my thumb back and forth so that we can glue it, but I'm not going to squish that down unless you want it to be totally smooth. If you want to smooth out that bump, that's okay too. You can do that. Okay. So this is the step where you want to take a look at all your edges and make sure if you need a little bit of water, you just smooth out those cracks. So the top edge. Don't worry so much about the inside, but I see some cracks in here. Elwyn, do you want to help me smooth out? Okay. And if at this point you think, oh, I don't think I have enough holes in my piece, then you can add some more holes. So this is sort of the final stage. And you want to shape it so that basically we're not going to touch this again. Whatever the final, and you can, sorry, whatever the final shape you want it to be, we're just going to mold it into there and then leave it. That overlap, the last overlap that we did, you can smooth the inside. This gives a little bit more security for that edge. Okay, so that's the lantern part. So want to make sure two things, that joint, you can't see any cracks or lines and that you have smoothed out everything. Now we're going to move on to the top. You don't have to do the top, but it does create a cool effect when you have your lantern going on the inside. So we're going to go back and grab that last piece that we had of extra clay. Seems to be extra clay everywhere around here. Okay, and I'm gonna, if this is you can feel it if it's a tiny bit dry, just get a little bit of water on your hands, tiny bit of water, and start to smush it around. You want to do this part?
I'm doing this.
Okay. I'm not looking.
Don't look at the show.
I'm looking at myself.
Don't look at the video.
So again, we want to make it easy to roll out. So I'm flattening most of it first in my hand into a circle. Okay, and then I'm just going to use my handy dandy marker roller just to make it flat. Oh, all the clay is drying. It's totally fine. We're just trying again to make it even. Now this one is not as important to be like super thick because it's not supporting anything. This is just a lid for the top. If this is starting to cave in for you, that means maybe it was too thin. And you can, with clay, you can always add a little bit of water and start again. Okay, so again, I'm going to grab the toothpick, or I have a little nail here I can use. Thanks. I'm just going to cut a circle with my toothpick. And now, the tricky part about this is that we have a whole circle, and I want to cut a quarter of this clay out, but in two parts. Okay, so if I was to cut a quarter in one part, I could go right from the side and make a right angle, and that would be a quarter. A quarter of my clay would be cut out. But because we're going to be rounding it, I want to do that in two parts. So pretend like you're going from 12 o'clock. A quarter would be from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock. But I want to do half of that. Okay, so 12 o'clock to between, so it'd be like a pizza slice. Okay, that's my first one. And I'm going to measure this right now just to see if that's enough. And what you do is you just fold it to make a peak. And we're going to see if it's big enough for our lantern. Now mine on this one goes a little bit further out. than this lantern did. It was a little bit smaller. So you can decide how big around you want it to be, if it's going to sit over the edge of your lantern or if you want it to be the exact same. Okay, so if you want it to be smaller, you just cut your circle to be a little bit smaller. But I want to cut another quarter out of my piece. So this is really important to make sure you don't go right from the middle, because if you did, we would lose the joint there. Okay, so I'm just going to go, this time I'm going to go from, whoa, it's a cat face. That's awesome, huh? I made you a present too.
What?
2 pizza slices.
No.
I'm going to make them into pizza after. That's really cool. Okay, so now we're going to do really quick scoring because we're going to join these together. If you want to just do it with 1/4, if that's easier for you, you can do that too. And I'm going to put some slip in there.
You said it was pizza. Where's the crust?
Oh, cool. Maybe put some pepperoni on there.
Yeah, I will. I'm going to do 1 cheese and 1 pepperoni.
So now I'm going to join them. Yeah, we could. Pizza necklaces.
For both of us.
This one, I'm going to actually smush the joint all the way across. I want to make sure this is nicely connected on both sides. Okay? And then join it on the other side. So I have a peak. It's like a little cap. So as I said before, clay is pretty forgiving. So even if you're bending it like kind of like in half, that's okay right now. Just get all your joints covered, all the clay smoothed out, because you want to make sure, like you can see in mine, even though I'm smoothing it, I've got, I think you can see there, a line right there coming out. That means that my joint isn't secure. Okay, and then flip it over and just make sure that your joints on the other side are smooth. That's pretty good. All right, so mine isn't perfectly lined up the way I want it to be, so I'm just going to trim where those 2 parts came together. Looks like it just overlapped a little bit. Totally fine. And I'm going to hold my finger in underneath. It's going to hold right in that little lip, and now I'm just going to smooth everything. So if it's really slippery, just use the water that's already on your clay and smooth it around.
You're going to have a pepperoni one, Mom, and I'm going to have a cheese one.
Okay.
And I made little holes for our string to go through. Good morning, Sloan.
Okay, so now we have to just put some holes in the top. We're going to do the same thing where you give a little twist. You don't have to do the holes in the top. We just found that it looked really cool with the light coming all the way through. Right up?
Yeah.
It's easy to, if you put your finger behind the straw, it'll be easier to pull out the little hole that you're making. Okay, so you can decorate this whatever way you want. If you really love constellations, look up, the Big Dipper or something like that, and you can actually do...
Like you can make it on your...
Yeah, you could do it all the way around your whole lantern.
And then it would look like the Big Dipper.
Okay, so I have one more piece of advice here. We're just gonna measure that. So mine looks like a little mushroom. I like this guy. So one thing that's important when you're leaving this to dry, you literally are not going to do anything more to this in the next couple days, other than I want you to flip it over. So this is the thickest part of our clay. It needs the most air. If it's on a surface that is absorbing the water, like cardboard, that might be okay. It might dry properly. But you want to, after maybe like tonight, you might want to check it and just see, you'll start to see the clay turning white, like a light beige, and the wet parts will still be this dark. Okay, so you want to make sure wherever it's darkest is getting the most air so that it can dry properly. With this one, in order to make it stay the shape that we want, we're going to get just a piece of paper, or let's just use your plastic wrap that you have from your clay to begin with, and I'm just going to put it underneath the cap. Okay, so we're going to just prop it up basically so that all the air can get around it, and that's a really good use of the plastic. But we want to just make sure that we let it dry properly. Okay, so that's it. You guys have made a lantern. It's pretty easy and awesome. The joining part I know is kind of difficult to get your head around, but it really is going to be cool. So after it dries completely, tomorrow or the next day, you can come back to this whenever. It's not going to go anywhere. It is very brittle when it's dry. It's very delicate. Remember, you cannot drink out of this clay. You cannot use this for, if you have extra clay and you're making something, you can't use it for eating out of, okay? Because this is just air dry clay. And you can paint it with all the paint that you have still. So last thing is you throw your little tea light in there, and you can keep it in your room as like a nightlight. Okay?
Nightlight pizza.
Nightlight, or you can make extra pizza. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. It was really great to see you. Art kits, if you bought next session, they're going out today after 3 o'clock. Make sure that you wash your hands really well with soap and water to get all the clay off, but also just to be healthy. Okay? So have fun, explore, take care of all the rest of your art clay, and make sure you use it up, but go and do some art. Have a great day, everybody.